The ancients believed that even within the deepest of darkness, that there is a promise of light, a rebirth, a turning point, a new beginning. And in this video, I'm going to share how you can also work with this energy too. But first, let me take you back thousands of years. Imagine a tribe of men, women, and children gathered on a freezing winter night in ancient Britain. The air is heavy and the fire is crackling soft. This is the longest night of the year, a time where the darkness seems endless and the cold seems even more bitter. The tribes feel the weight of it, not just the winter, but also feeling the weight and the heaviness of their inner worlds. The darkness was not just around them, it was within them. A shared struggle and a quiet question of whether the light would truly return. And with this, the merry men stand up and they go and place their well-dried oak log on the fire. Flames hesitate for a moment, murmuring low, and then all of a sudden they leap into glee and laughter as though stirred by the prayers of the people in the tribe. A murmur rises among the people, a soft ripple of hope. The women light their candles and one by one the darkness begins to shift. What was once a heavy, bitter void now glows with the warmth and radiance of this light. Children clutch their candles with wide-eyed wonder as they listen to the women beginning to tell the stories of the sun's journey. A reminder that even in the deepest darkness, this is only a part of the great cycle of nature. Tales of gods and goddesses who descended into the shadow and emerged reborn are told with promise and glee, sharing hope that the light will always return. The fire crackles louder, and at last the first light breaks. A blanket of gold light appears on the horizon, beginning to bathe the frosted earth. The tribe watches in silence, their breath misting in the cold air, and the earth herself takes a long, deep sigh of relief. The heaviness begins to lift and the people begin to smile, their hearts lightened and their spirits renewed. The fire continues to burn brightly, its warmth a reminder that even in the darkest of moments, renewal is just beyond the horizon. This is the winter solstice, the wheel of the year, the sacred turning point in which darkness gives way to light. Humans have honoured this event as a symbol and portal of hope, rebirth, and resilience of the light. Fast forward to today, and most of us in the Western world are not so connected to the cycles of nature, let alone celebrating the winter solstice. And this is a significant event in what would have been our ancestors' lives. Most of us are not aware of the magic, the power, and the transformation working with these solar events can bring us. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. What if we were connected to these solar events? What if we had the opportunity to grow, evolve, and expand our consciousness in ways that we can't quite yet fathom? What if we could sync up to the rhythms of nature once again, just like our ancestors did? I definitely have a theory that the seasons are teaching us how to live and how to be. And from my own experience of working with the winter solstice, consciously in the last couple of years, but it started in 2020. And from my own experience, one of the most powerful events for me out of the whole year is the winter solstice. For me, it is this seed, but it's also this spark. Imagine a dark room, really dark room, and someone just lights a match. And it's within that match that we can find the way. We can find a new direction. We can find anything if we have the light. And so for me, the winter solstice is that match. It's this opportunity to start again. It's this opportunity to find what you need to start a new path, or begin a new project, or find a new love, or find yourself. It's an opportunity that the earth, nature, the universe is offering you every year. We have this chance every year. And also there's other solar events that offer you different opportunities, of course, but today we're just talking about the winter solstice because it's one of my favourites. So today I'm going to talk to you about 3 different things to do with the winter solstice. Number 1, I'm going to give a brief history. The second thing we're going to talk about is some personal anecdotes for me and the winter solstice and how it's changed my life. Some of them are pretty unbelievable. And number 3 is little things that you can do to incorporate the winter solstice into your life. Begin to incorporate if you haven't already. So let's dive in. So let's start with the solstice itself. The word sol comes from the Latin sun, and sister, which is to stand still. To stand still, meaning the sun stands still. Solstice, it happens twice a year, once at the summer solstice and again at the winter solstice. They're 6 months apart. So the summer solstice is in June, and that is the longest day of the year, and the winter solstice in the northern hemisphere is in December, which is the longest night of the year. And cultures from all over the world would have celebrated these particular solar events for thousands of years. So interestingly, renowned researcher Graham Hancock uncovered a fascinating pattern. Many ancient sites dating back thousands of years were deliberately aligned with the rising or the setting sun on the solstice. The alignments were not coincidental. They were carefully designed by our ancestors to honour these pivotal moments in the year. Moments when the balance of light and darkness shifts, marking the rhythm of life itself. From the towering stones of Stonehenge to the intricate passage tombs of Newgrange, these ancient structures tell a story, a profound connection to the cosmos and the cycles of the earth. Take Stonehenge, for example, in Britain. This 5,000-year-old monument is aligned with the solstice. On the winter solstice, the sun rises directly over the heelstone, flooding the inner circle with light. Archaeologists believe it was a sacred place of gathering to honour the cycle of light and dark. In ancient Egypt, the summer solstice marked the annual flooding of the Nile, a life-giving event that ensured fertile land for crops. The solstice aligned perfectly with the rising of Sirius, the brightest star in the night sky, which they believed was the goddess Isis weeping tears of abundance. Even in Scandinavia, where winters were harsh and unforgiving, the Norse people celebrated Yule, a 12-day festival around the winter solstice. They lit giant bonfires to symbolise the return of the sun and decorated evergreen trees as symbols of eternal life. Yes, this is where the Christmas tree tradition comes from. And there are so many other traditions, I have to say, that I would love to speak into another time, but just for the purpose of this video, we're just going to give a few examples. And in general, the winter solstice was celebrated worldwide with many, many ancient sites, all aligning exactly to the sun on the winter and the summer solstice, but it's also largely a mystery. So here are some interesting solstice facts that maybe you didn't know. Number 1, the solstice doesn't happen at the same time every year. It shifts ever so slightly because of the Earth's orbit around the sun. So this year, the winter solstice will be at 9:21 a.m. on Saturday, the 21st of December, 2024. Number 2, ancient solstice markers exist all over the world. So according to QuechaExpeditions.com, in Peru, the Inca built Machu Picchu with precise alignments to the solstice. Machu Picchu's architecture holds secrets of the Incan calendar. The Intihuatana stone is a prime example. It accurately tracks the position of the sun throughout the year. On the winter solstice, the sun perfectly aligns with certain structures. This event was crucial for the Inca. It marked the rebirth of the sun and a new agricultural cycle. Number 3. Here in England, the longest night of the year will receive 16 hours of darkness and 8 hours of light. So the ratio is 66.66666% of darkness and 33.33333% of light. Well, I just love that because of numerology and angel numbers, and yeah, love it. And so as we stand here at this pivotal point in the Earth's turning of wheels, it's really beautiful to pause for a moment and reflect. I just can't help but feel how deeply the solstice mirrors our lives. Just as the Earth goes through the cycles of endings, death, rebirth, and new beginnings, as do we. I always feel that just as you get to the darkest point, it's where we can find the brightest light. It's where we can find something extraordinary. So I'd love to share with you a few stories about my experience on the winter solstice for the past 4 years and what's happened in my life every year up until this winter solstice. So yeah, it's important to note that I wasn't brought up with any of these beliefs about winter solstice. I didn't know anything about it until 2020. So I will share. Yeah, it's around these times that I began to have monumental shifts in my life, and it's just something that I can't ignore, which is why I'm making this video, because I hope that in the making of this video, it will awaken even just one person to the beauty and the expansion and the opportunity that the Earth is giving us. I want to share with you a few of these short stories because they are pivotal shifts in my life, and they can maybe remind you also of the magic of these cycles and what they can bring you. So 2020. In 2020, in winter solstice, I began to find the courage and the logic to begin my first kind of online business. I'd been in India early that year and been practicing yoga, devoting my life to yoga for 6 years up until that point. And 2020 was really the point where it came to this point where I was like, I need to just share. I need to just share. I've been studying this for so long and living this for so long, and I feel really ready to share. I feel like I'm really in a space of creating and offering and service. I was in the service mode. I began around the winter solstice to think about that. I started to think about my Instagram. I started to plan some lives. I did one yoga class a week on my Instagram lives at that point. I started to kind of build up a bit of a community. So that was my first year, and it was life-changing, to say the least. Everything began with this one decision. It was the decision to move myself out the way, move my ego out the way, and allow the needs of others to kind of come before myself, come before my own judgments. It was, this is more important than what's going on up here at that point. So I started to take everything a lot more seriously, and my posting schedule was on point. So 2021, big year of change for me. I was 25 years old. I was beginning to become fascinated by magic, manifestation, plant dieters, just plants, local plants to Britain. And I began to start syncing up to nature at that point. I was going to women's circles every month. I'd started entry-level shamanic training. Didn't even know anything about it. Just felt really cool to like go into that, learn about that. And yeah, ultimately it was deep connection to nature and deep connection to plants. It was kind of through this process that my whole world and universe started to expand. So the winter solstice on the 2021, I was with my friends Poppy and Maddie in Stroud in England. Sunrise was, swimming in the lake, building fires, drumming, sharing stories. It was this real beginning to be a lot more conscious about the winter solstice and celebrating it in a way that my ancestors would have on the land that I'm from, which felt really good at the time. So fast forward to 2022, I was at Stonehenge for Winter Solstice, and I was with my friend Poppy again. We were in her van, and this Winter Solstice presented me with a decision to say no to something. Say no to something that was no longer in alignment with me. It was a job that I was doing and it was beautiful, but I just wasn't getting paid enough for what I really felt like I deserved. And so in that moment, it was actually like a conversation I was having on the Winter Solstice via email. Really, this was a chance for me to stand in my power and say, no, I don't agree with that. No, I don't want to do that. No, I don't want to go forward with this. And that was quite a big thing at the time. But I said no, and I moved on from that situation. But what came in its place was a few months later, a really beautiful job opportunity came with gorgeous community, and it just allowed me to just level up on another level with my teaching, with my connecting, and it was gorgeous. So 2022 was a big one. In 2023, the winter solstice in particular was very potent, and it's because I was really conscious about it this time. I'd been reviewing what had been changing and what had been happening, and I was like, well, okay, let's see what happens this time. So I was traveling Latin America, and I just flew to Guatemala about 5 days before the winter solstice. And it was around the winter solstice time that I met my beautiful partner, Pablo. And the winter solstice is our anniversary, which is coming up in just... For me, it was really magical to meet my partner around the winter solstice, and it's the best relationship I've ever had. And it really is the light returning. After having a couple of not so successful relationships, it's been really beautiful and really gorgeous to meet my love on the portal of winter solstice, and for us to have our anniversary around this date. It's amazing. It's so beautiful. So that's been a really pivotal point in my life. And me and my partner, we've been together ever since pretty much the day that we met. We met traveling, and we kept traveling together and learning and growing, and we've been to each other's families, and my partner's here with me in the UK right now, and we're going back to Mexico next month, and it's amazing. So and now 2024, which is where we are now, which is a really big transition, as this year has been monumental for me as I'm going through my Saturn return. I wonder how it's been for all of you. Let me know in the comments below. This winter solstice, I'm finding my voice again, and my courage again, and my own myself again. Like, what are my beliefs? What do I want to present to the world? What do I want to share? This has been my kind of theme of winter solstice, my kind of theme of the year, and it's kind of like wrapping itself up with the winter solstice. It's kind of like the light is here around this time. Hasn't been here, but it's around this time that it kind of starts to land for me. So how can you honour the winter solstice, and how can you begin to work with this energy in your life? I'm going to give you some suggestions. Number 1, create a winter solstice ritual altar. Now, I'm a big believer in you don't need to buy all the things to honour. Candles are really beautiful. You can use white candles, they're the easiest ones to find. You can also use gold or red or yellow, really beautiful to represent the sun and the warmth of the return of the light. Mistletoe is a really beautiful one. Of course, it's around Christmas time, and this is a sacred druidic plant that symbolises fertility, protection, and union of opposites, and the continuity of nature through the dark months. Some crystals that would be really gorgeous on your altar can be citrine, clear quartz, or a garnet. Citrine represents sunlight and abundance. Clear quartz amplifies energy, symbolises clarity. Garnet, associated with the root chakra, it symbolises warmth, grounding, and vitality. You can also burn different sacred herbs that you can collect or harvest, and we can burn dried garden sage, rosemary, or cinnamon sticks. These are really beautiful to cleanse and purify the space, as well as use as offerings. Really beautiful to try and source your own instead of kind of ship from other countries. You don't need to do that. We have all of the medicine that we have around us wherever we are, I believe. I always like to include the elements in my altar too, maybe a feather that I found on the floor to represent the air, maybe a chalice of water to honour the water. The earth can be represented by the evergreen branches, and then the fire can be represented by the candle. And then anything else that you want to add in there. Flowers are also really beautiful to represent blossoming and growth. Whatever you feel, really, you can't go wrong. I always like to add in a bell, a chime, a little chime, symbolising the return or a kind of shift in energy. That's always fun to put on an altar. You can ring it every day or around the winter solstice. And something also that's really nice is to add in different fruits and nuts to your altar around this time. Always, but it's really beautiful to add in fruits and nuts as a symbol of abundance and fertility. So you can use things like apples, oranges, pomegranates, walnuts and chestnuts. Okay, so the next tip that I have is reflect on your inner cycle and what's going on in your life right now. So I wonder about the season you're in right now. Are you in a period of growth? Are you in a summer? Or do you feel like you're in a winter? It really depends where you're watching this from, what stage of your cycle that you're in as a woman. And yeah, it depends on a lot of things, but where are you right now? What period of your life are you in? I wonder what your astrology is. So I want you to really honour where you are without judgment, and especially on the winter solstice, a ritual would be to shine a light in an area of your life that needs it. Okay, for example, I'm doing a YouTube video right now, okay? This has been something that I've been wanting to do for a long time, but I felt a lot of resistance to it. So what do? I set up the camera and I have some notes here, and it's not a big deal, you know, sharing from our hearts what we love to do, what we love to share, what we're talking to all of our friends about, right? So it's really about shining a light on an area of your life which you feel like needs a little bit of love, needs a little bit of support, needs a little bit of, you know, let's do this, you know, bravery, courage, light. So think about that. Think about an area that needs a bit more support. You don't have to just support yourself. You can ask others too. But just bringing that awareness, maybe doing some journaling. What area of your life needs a bit of love and light right now? Where can you breathe in more consciousness and more awareness? Another great tip is celebrate the winter solstice in nature. So spending time in nature is always going to be a winner, whether you are in the Northern Hemisphere and it's freezing, or whether you're in another part of the world and it's tropical and gorgeous. Can you go for a walk, light a fire, find a community, go dancing, do some yoga, do some breath work? Can you clear some old energy out your system so that you can create space for this newness? You know, moving's really great. Going to ceremonies is really great. You know, the winter solstice is becoming quite a big thing now. Some people still don't know about it. But the awareness is growing and more people are celebrating all around the world again, which is amazing. So I'm sure if you maybe Google or look on different social media platforms, you could find local events and go and celebrate with others that are like-minded. Maybe you'd like to leave some offerings while you're out and about. Maybe you'd like to leave some water for a tree, or a song for a plant, or a flower for a loved one somewhere. Connecting to nature is key around the winter solstice. The more we connect to nature, the more we become ourselves again. I really believe it. So bonus tip, and this is an important one for women. So I am a woman, and as a woman, I'm deeply connected to the cycles of nature, and as are you if you're a woman watching this too. Winter for women is a stage within our menstrual cycle when we are menstruating, when we're bleeding. It's a passage of lucidity and connection to the divine. It's a time for rest, a time for cleansing, clearing and reflecting, preparing for the new. So one way I would love to encourage women in particular to honour the winter solstice is to honour themselves as cyclical beings that cycle with the earth, the moon and the stars. Can you honour your body by slowing down, feeding her with nutritious meals, and being even kinder to the temple that is she? I really believe that the more we connect to these portals year by year, something changes within us and we begin to remember the old ways. As women in particular, we are remembering how things used to be. And the solstice reminds us that the darkness is just as important as the light. Rest is just as vital as action. And when we honour this balance, we find harmony. But this isn't just about the solstice, this is about how we're living as a society. The calendar we follow has been pushed ever so slightly off of kilter. and not enough of us are aware of the wisdom we can acquire when we sync back up to these rhythms. So I would love to invite you to share with me, how are you celebrating your winter solstice? Is it by reflecting, going out into nature, creating a plan for the year ahead? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear your thoughts. The solstice is a reminder that we're always shifting and we're always evolving. If you found this helpful, please like, comment and subscribe to this video and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Together we can bring about so much more balance, magic and harmony into our lives. Thank you so much for listening.